Hello, I'm Bliznub, and welcome to Building the Best. Today we're going to be looking at Valkyr, as requested by freaking everyone. But namely, Blake, Wills, and Ress. I can't read what I wrote on this piece of paper. Now then, Valkyr is one that everyone thinks they have done perfectly, so I'm going to be on tenterhooks here, and just go ahead and say that if you think your build is better than mine, please post it down below. I wish to learn from you. I wish to learn all of the things. But this is my Eternal Valkyr build, as I'm calling it. Which is basically a Valkyr centered around her Hysteria and the Eternal War mod's effect on Warcry. So what we of course start off with is power strength. Lots and lots of power strength. Provided here by Transient Fortitude, a 5-point Blind Rage, and Power Drift for another 15% power strength up there. Now the Blind Rage is at only 5 points here, so I can get the lovely 167-160 split, which gives you perfect efficiency. Now this can of course be achieved by having much higher duration than this and slightly lower efficiency, but then you'll have higher cast costs, and the other way works too, but again, getting away from the point, this gives you perfect channeling efficiency, whilst the efficiency isn't as high as it could be. So of course next we have Streamline and Fleeting Expertise, then we have Narrow-Minded, Primed Continuity, and not Transient Fortitude, I realise, to get us lots of duration, whilst losing a little bit of range. And we have Vitality for some health and survivability when we're out of ult, and Eternal War for our Warcry, which is a ridiculously good mod, which basically means that your Warcry will last forever, thus the name, I suppose. It also means that it will last forever on your teammates as well, so long as you don't accidentally go into a nullifier bubble or fall out of the map. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Valkyr is really simple to build, I'll be honest. And this wasn't too complicated to come up with, it was just balancing all of the mods just right. And after I found the perfect efficiency balance over here, honestly, it was quite simple and straightforward. One final thing to notice is that Steel Charge is incredibly useful on Valkyr. If you're thinking of taking Rifle Amp because you prefer to use your rifles, just no. Just no. Bad. Steel Charge, it's 60% bonus damage on your ult, basically. It is ridiculously good. Now, before I continue, I'm going to just look at the abilities page, and we can see that I can't rotate my Valkyr in the Simulacron. And we can also see that I'm getting a little bit over 100% armor increase on Warcry, as well as a 100% speed increase. And my Hysteria, which will make me completely invincible, drains only 0.63 energy per second and gives me 560 base damage on Hysteria, which is fantastic. I mean, it is truly ridiculous. Now, one last thing to note is that Hysteria has its own unique stats. It is technically a melee weapon, but whilst it works off your melee weapons mods, it has its own base stats. So I've taken War here mostly because it's the melee I currently have the most Former on and most polarities to use, but you really can use any weapon. I'd recommend something with a lot of range on it, so that you can justify putting Primed Reach on, because I've put Primed Reach on this build because nullifiers, basically. Because you want to be able to take nullifiers out from a reasonably safe distance, and when you're using claws and you have to literally scratch the bubble down, yeah, a little bit of extra reach helps quite a lot. So we start off with Pressure Point and 2 Elementals, giving us corrosive damage and lots of base damage to work with. And then we have Prime Breach, as I say, Fury and Berserker, and True Steel and Organ Shatter. And the reason we do this is because Hysteria has a base 50% crit chance, the highest of any melee or ability in the... Wait a minute. Okay, I can't say for certain it's any ability in the game, but it's the highest of any melee in the game, without a doubt. And it has 2 times crit damage, and a 10% status chance. The status chance there isn't really worth building off, but the crit definitely is. And unfortunately, Blood Rush and Body Count don't work on Valkyr, otherwise they would most certainly be on this build. So yeah, we've gone for this, a relatively balanced, corrosive build, which will buff up Hysteria's damage immensely. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. This, in combination with this Warcry build, works incredibly well. And like I say, it will work on any weapon like this. I'd highly recommend a heavy bladed or a polearm or stave. I think it's that way round. I don't recall. But honestly, any melee is good so long as you have the appropriate mods on, and there are only so many mods that work on Hysteria. So anyhow, unfortunately today's sortie was rather lame and full of corpus, so I'm going to be testing this thing out in the Simulacron against a mix of varied corpus enemies. So we're going to go for some Arid Heavy Gunners, some Bombards. What shall we get in here? Something large and scary that isn't a Manic, because a Manic would just be awful. Flame Blades, why not? I'm feeling like that would be funny. And let's get some Eviscerators in here as well. And the first thing I'm going to show off is, of course, the ulti, because I have just spawned in a ridiculous amount of things that are going to beat the living stuffing out of me. And so showing that I am completely and utterly invincible is quite cool. And one thing to note, I'm just going to hop up here so I can hear myself think, is that the little number you see rising up on the top right, that is the amount of damage I have stored, or the amount of damage I have taken. And when I leave my ult, that much damage will be dealt in an AoE around me and buffed by my power strength. But the AoE on this build is virtually non-existent, so we're completely ignoring that. Besides, honestly, for nuking a single target, 18,000 damage is nothing. This build is dealing fantastic amounts more damage than that with each series of hits. Now, it's fair to note that yes, that was a 3 million crit you just saw. It's fair to note that Valkyr staggers enemies a lot and will quite frequently get free finishes because of this, and they deal increased damage. And so that is how I am slaughtering these Bombards so easily, dealing exactly little damage. And I do unfortunately have the Naramon skill tree on, which I can't turn off. I turned it on whilst I was testing, and I slightly regret not turning it off, but it does demonstrate just how ridiculously ludicrous Valkyr gets with the Naramon tree on. Because I'm invisible. I'm critting pretty much 100% of the time. It's very, very close to being 100% of the time. And there is nothing the enemies can do about it. And as you can see, I'm still on 140 energy. It's ticking down so slow. I could be in my ulti for 2.5 minutes like this, easily, without worrying. And even when I leave my ulti, I'm still not defenseless, because of course this is an Eternal War build, and I would be completely remiss in not showing off the Warcry element of it. So let me just hop up here and spawn in some new enemies. I think there's one down there still, but oh well. I'm going to spawn them in a little bit lower because I'm not going to be sitting in my ult for this. But let's get 5 heavy gunners at level 80. That's still, you know, that's still tier 3 sortie level. And it should demonstrate? It should demonstrate many things. It should demonstrate just how effective Warcry is. So, of course it does slow anything immediately around me, but I'm not sure if you can tell, but the attack speed is a little bit ludicrous with Valkyr's Warcry turned on. I'm just going to let myself go visible for a second so you can see, and then I'll kill some things again. Now, we have dropped off Life Strike on this build, and I appreciate I'm going to get a lot of flack for that, but honestly, I don't care. You can enter your ult at any time and regen back all of the health you have lost for little to no energy cost. So, yeah. And every time you get a melee kill, the duration of that counter is going to be extended by a few seconds. And I'm sure you guys all know that in a survival or exterminate, that pretty much means you can stay in your Hysteria and keep your entire squad in your Hysteria for the entire... Sorry, in your Warcry for the entire mission with complete ease. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. This build is ridiculously overpowered. It's one of the reasons you never see me play it. It is simply too easy. It really, really is. Anyhow, I thought I would let you guys finally have my Eternal Warcry build. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for requesting this build. I know loads and loads of people have asked for it, and it has taken me a long time to get around to this one. As always, requests are always welcome. The list is quite long, but I do enjoy doing builds for you guys, so keep them coming. Anyhow, thank you very much for watching. As always, please like and comment below, and subscribe if you want to see more. I'm Bliznub, and this is, of course, Eternal Valkyr.